have a friend here in town, and I love his phrase when he talks about the benefits of exercise. He says, you want to look good naked and be harder to kill. And you know, who would argue with that? Let's all look good naked and be harder to kill. Hi, I'm Lucy Douglas. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I'm owner and CEO of New Beginnings Wellness Center and Spa in Ruston, Louisiana. I want to talk to you today about resiliency. I think in particular in our current climate, it's really important that we have this conversation. And I'm seeing little pockets of it coming from various people out on the web. But here locally in my community and in my state, I'm just not really hearing people talk about our overall health and well-being from the perspective of what do we absolutely have control over that can contribute to our overall immune health and our having less susceptibility to disease. So I know that might sound like a really lofty goal, but I'm utterly convinced that there absolutely are things that we have control over that do make us healthier and make us I love the word resilient. That's just been on my mind today. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you, that's just what keeps coming back to me. So I want to talk about several different areas of our lives that contribute to our overall resiliency. And the first one being nutrition. So that's no surprise. If you're listening to this video, you might have heard some previous videos, so you know that that's something I'm very passionate about. I'm very passionate about your health. I'm passionate about you meeting your life goals, being the person that you were created to be, that you enjoy all that you've worked for, and that you have many years to do that. And so when we talk about that, we have to talk about what we're eating, because all of us do that every single day. And if you look around, if you're in a public setting and you look at and assess the overall health of people, I will tell you, I'm dismayed when I'm in a public setting and I'm, just sort of observing what I see, and it upsets me. And I just don't think we're talking about nutrition in the way that we should be, and that we're like almost being a little bit confrontational, like within our friend groups, within our families, and within your sphere of influence. I don't mean like going and grabbing something out of the hand of a person that you don't know in the grocery store, which I promise you I've never done that. But that we are like more transparent with one another, and that we are more honest with each other about those habits that can contribute to our wellness or lead us down a path towards disease that none of us would want to go down. So what are we eating? Where's all the death and dying coming from? Is it too much broccoli? I mean, I would say no. One thing I noticed during COVID, when many small businesses in Ruston were closed, you know what businesses were thriving? The fast food businesses. Literally, no matter what time of the day you might drive by one of those establishments, the lines were literally flowing out onto the service road near the interstate. You had to deviate around to not run into people who were 3 o'clock in the afternoon trying to get into Cane's. So that is of concern to me. And if we're talking about disease prevention, if we're talking about being less susceptible in the current climate, then we need to be more honest with each other, and that those types of foods are not contributing to wellness. Again, the evidence is in the funeral home. Who's in the funeral home? How many people are in there? A lot. And what are they dying from? Well, fairly recent statistic in that the United States alone, deaths from cardiovascular disease and the associated complications are over 800,000 a year. That is a significant number. And again, where's that coming from? You, we, me, we have control over that destiny, that part of our lives. And it starts with what's on our fork. So I want to, I try to be an encourager, and I tell my patients every day that all of them hold me accountable. And I really appreciate that, because I certainly can't come and try to share information with someone or even speak correction into someone's life if I'm not walking the walk. So just being able to have these kinds of conversations in this virtual format, it's really helpful for me personally to help keep me focused on my goals, and that certain foods that might be a temptation for me, I'm more easily able to, say, substitute a handful of fresh cherries when I might want to stick my head in a half gallon of Bluebell, because that used to be my drug of choice. So I just want to say that I think we can do better. And I think there are some general ground rules that apply to everyone, no matter what your individual tastes, no matter what your individual thinking about food. You know, there's some people that are vegan. They choose to eat a plant-based lifestyle and they thrive on that and they do well. And I'm fine with that. There are people that I work with and have counseled that have found that a more lower carbohydrate, maybe even almost a more keto style of eating works well for them. And you know, the one thing I've learned in the 8 years of working with patients one-on-one is that all of us are different. And where I might have had some particular biases about how I thought people should eat, I've really changed in the way I approach people. And I think that I want to know more about someone's preferences and lifestyle and comfort in a kitchen and budgetary concerns and all of that, and then come up with a plan that works for each person individually. But again, I'll reiterate that I think there are general ground rules that apply to all of us. And the first one is, anything handed to you in a brown bag through a drive-through is not healthy. I'm sorry. It's poisonous chemicals pushed into the shape of food. And I will tell you, it tastes good. I know this to be the truth because I used to be one who frequented a drive-through line. But I haven't done that in 11 years. So it's because of a decision and a choice that I've made about my own health and my own life. So again, nothing handed to us in a brown bag or in a square cardboard carton on a regular basis is good for us. And we're talking about our overall immune health and resiliency. That depletes our resiliency. That lessens our resiliency. So a diet that's made up of those types of foods is going to be detrimental for you in the short term, but certainly in the long term. And again, cardiovascular disease, people don't just wake up one day with that. We don't just wake up one day with arteries filled with plaque and at risk for strokes and heart attacks. That's something that's building over weeks, months, and years. And what would be the root cause of that? It's not too many apples. It's most likely the effect of all of the poisonous chemicals ingested through the very tasty, I know, drive-through food. So I won't continue to beat that dead horse. Literally, you can throw a dead chicken in a crock pot and sprinkle some salt and pepper on it and turn it on. Like, we don't have to be Rachel Ray. If you're like, you know, your eyes are rolling back in your head right now and she's like, oh, here she goes again, telling me I have to cook frozen vegetables, dead chicken, nuke a sweet potato. It doesn't have to be fancy. But we do need to eat from the dirt. I like to tell my patients that. Eat as close to the dirt as you possibly can. When you've heard shop on the outer perimeter of the grocery store, there's a great deal of truth and benefit to all of us in that. And certainly I might run down one of the aisles for some canned tomatoes or some broth or some dried beans, things like that. But I'm generally not going to be found with other types of foods that are in boxes or packages in my grocery cart. And I just want to encourage you to begin to think differently and think about your resiliency against all different types of diseases. So when we're talking about nutrition, I can't leave you without mentioning your water intake. So it's extremely important for our health, our well-being, and when I'm noticing people's shopping carts in the grocery store, I'm noticing, again, all the processed drinks. I'm noticing the kids' drinks, you know, those things that are marketed to children that are full of artificial chemicals, God knows what kind of fake sugar or high fructose corn syrup. They're terrifying. Nobody needs that. And don't drink soda, please, for the love of heaven. It's a chemical, just a chemical disaster. It's not even cane sugar anymore. They're high fructose corn syrup, or they're aspartame or Splenda, sucralose. There's been quite a few studies done, very robust studies, looking at men in particular who consumed a lot of diet soda. And their risk for leukemias and lymphoma was phenomenally high. So if you're struggling with weight loss, even the artificial sweeteners can impede those efforts. So I cannot encourage you enough to leave that stuff on the shelf. Please focus on your water intake. Add fresh fruit to your water for flavor. Add some essential oils to your water. Drink some unsweetened tea with fruit in it. Try to get creative, but you really do have to sort of set your intention when that's not been your habit and you're recognizing that you need to make a change in that area. It's not something that might come easy to everyone, but I think the benefit to that is huge as far as overall health and well-being. If you're prone to kind of chronic tension headaches, that very much might be sort of a dehydration that you're operating in all the time, and that's leading to those annoying headaches. So please work on that. So what are we eating? Staying out of the drive-through line, getting more comfortable with preparing simple meals at home from very fresh, simple ingredients, using frozen vegetables and things like that as needed. You know, I do that. I keep frozen vegetables in my freezer because I can get very zealous and I can think, oh, I'm going to cook today, I'm going to do all these things, and I go buy it and then I throw it away. I've been guilty of that. So I try to be very targeted on my shopping. I go and buy just what I need for a specific meal or preparing a big meal for my kids, but I keep frozen vegetables on hand. Your fluid intake, water, unsweet tea, using oils or fruit to flavor that so that you're more excited about it. Okay, so let's talk about sleep. If we get our nutrition dialed in and we say, you know what, Lucy, I really feel like I'm not eating out as much. We're making that, say, a once a week treat. I'm being more choosy when I'm doing that. But if you're like me, I struggle with the nighttime hours. I think I'm just wired naturally as a night owl. I've been that way all my life. But it doesn't suit how the rest of the world runs. You know, the rest of the world is getting up early and businesses are starting and things are running at 8 o'clock. And even though that doesn't personally jihad with me, I know how important our sleep is to our overall immune health and our well-being and our ability to function and thrive. And I mean that very definitely for your children if you have children in your home. So let's work on a more routine bedtime. Let's work on this, what we call sleep hygiene. There's a ton of great literature out there to support the necessity of a very cool room. So I've read several different things, but I think commonly I read 70 degrees being considered optimal. No light in your room. Disconnecting from electronics within an hour of your bedtime because that blue light disrupts the pineal gland where melatonin is secreted. So it's a little bit messes with your circadian rhythm when you're just connected and hooked to electronics right up into the moment of turning out the light and going to sleep. And so if you're struggling to fall asleep or feeling like you're not getting good restful sleep, that could be a potential root cause for that. So I really can't emphasize that enough. I know that I don't feel like I perform well, that I'm not like as sharp as I'd like to be when I've allowed my bedtime to eke away from like max 11 o'clock. So that is an area I'm just being transparent with you that I'm still needing to work on. But I do recognize that I perform better and feel better, and I don't feel like I'm grumpy when I've had my 7 to 8 hours on that more normal clock. So it actually does have benefit for your immune health and your resiliency when you sleep properly. So for those of you that are like the biohackers, there's a lot of great tools out there to track that. So if you're really interested in the feedback, another thing that I've been reading a lot about lately is taping the mouth shut at night. And I've actually started doing that. And here's why. When we breathe through our mouth, we're not actually designed to breathe through our mouth. We're actually designed to breathe through our nose with our mouth closed. And the purpose of that is that we're producing a lot of nitric oxide, which is a wonderful chemical that acts in the lining of our blood vessels to relax them and promote great blood flow, which we know blood flow equals oxygen. So you're oxygenating well at night when you're sleeping with your mouth closed. And there's a lot of great resources out there. I can include some down below in the video if you're just interested in looking into that more. But it's super interesting, and I wish I'd been tracking my biometrics before I started and since I've been sleeping with my mouth closed, because I happen to sleep on my back. So gravity's going to just pull my mouth down, and I would mouth breathe all night, and it's not good for us. So plenty of sleep. Disconnecting from all the electronics, making sure your children are not ODing on their electronics when they come home from school. And then that you consider looking into, if you know you're a mouth breather, that you use some, even a Band-Aid to bring your mouth closed so it will stay closed at night and you get the benefits of the increased nitric oxide. So nutrition, hydration, sleep. And the other thing I want to mention is exercise. I talk to people all day long about lifestyle. During COVID, when New Beginnings was closed for a while, I had a lot of extra time on my hands, and I did a lot of cleaning and organizing and some good therapeutic things. But I got back to walking, and I love walking. It's very therapeutic for me. I love walking in the evening or even at night, especially on the nights where there are full moons. I don't know, there's just something that's extremely calming. I can listen to music, I can listen to a book, and whatever the stresses of the day might have been or whatever's on my mind or is of concern to me, I just feel better about it after a good brisk walk. So I feel like I'm doing better now because of all the hours that I spent walking through those weeks when we were closed. And I've started back with that in the last week, and I'm enjoying it immensely. So certainly I experienced a few pounds down, which I was of course excited about, but I feel better when I'm doing something physical. There have been seasons in my life when I've worked with a trainer, and I enjoyed that immensely. More high intensity, working with her in a gym. There have been seasons when I had a running group and we were walking, jogging, and running together, and I love that too. So there's a lot of benefit to exercise, and you notice 2 of the 3 things I mentioned were me with other people. So the camaraderie of that, the friendships, the accountability, all of those are very important in keeping you, focused on the goal, but also the benefit to our overall health, and I'm going to say it again, our resiliency, so that we can actually protect ourselves from a lot of things that go by. And we can do these things together as a family. If you have a spouse, children, a partner, a best friend, get someone involved with you if you're struggling to get into a routine. It's extremely important for our mental health as well. And I really talk to patients probably more about the mental health benefits of exercise than I do if there's a weight loss goal or something in specific in the physical realm we're trying to address, because I just know it makes us feel better. So work on that. Begin to think about and schedule your day in such a way as, where am I going to fit this in? And make it a priority. Make yourself a priority. And I think I'm saying this to women in particular, mothers, busy working women. We tend to put everyone else ahead of ourselves. So I'm just encouraging you, and I'm encouraging myself to stay in this routine that I'm in, because I think I plan my evening, like what am I going to do, where am I going to go, based on am I going to have time to walk. So that's just me sharing that personal part of myself with you, and that I found that I feel a lot better. So nutrition, hydration, sleep, exercise. Let's talk about sort of the last thing here is our stress management, and all of this blends together. When we eat right, we're going to be more resilient. When we're not eating a diet, a chronic intake of yucky, chemical-laden processed food, when we're well hydrated, when we're well rested, and when we are focusing on our mindfulness, when we're focusing on, stressful things happen. I get it. I think until we're dead, a long time from now, we're all dealing with stress of various types and kinds and various levels, all of our lives. So we need to be prepared and to have our coping mechanisms in place, so when things, unexpected things, the hurricane, the COVID virus, when all of these things have come against us, I've noticed that some people that have had some of these areas more dialed in have seemed to weather it better than others who maybe are not as well organized in some of these areas. So I feel like there are strategies that we can implement to counteract the negative effect of stress. I recently was on a 3-year journey with my husband who was going through treatment for cancer. People would ask me, "How are you doing?" And I would always say, "I really think I'm fine." I didn't feel stress in the way that I think most of us perceive stress, what we feel like that looks like when other people are stressed. Because I didn't feel panicky, I wasn't crying all the time, I was probably irritable, especially to the people closest around me. But, on that whole 3-year journey, I look back and I kind of feel a little proud of myself, because I feel like part of the reason I was able to weather that is that I was fairly well prepared coming into the storm. My nutrition had been dialed in for many years. I had been exercising regularly. I feel like I'm just an overall very positive and happy person. So, even my perspective on my husband has cancer, I was hopeful. We both were hopeful and positive, through the whole time until he passed away last October. So I just think that our mindset, certainly our circle around us, the people around us, can help keep us lifted up when we're going through difficult times. Excuse me. So there are a lot of components to stress management. I think being aware of the negative impact of these life situations is important, that we're just aware. Even though I was denying that I was having effects, I have a little bit of perspective now, 10 months, 10 months since he passed away. I can look back and I can see, I was experiencing stress. It just didn't look like, I guess, how I saw it looking in other people. Because, I'm an individual, and how I perceive things that are stressful is going to be different from everyone else. So I just feel like that's something we probably don't talk about a lot. It's something I get into quite a bit of detail with my patients, because I want to know about their lives and background and what they're doing and just how they feel like they're doing, carrying all of that, because I think we all carry a lot. And so these other things that we've talked about today have a great bearing on our overall strength and resiliency and our ability to tolerate the negative effects of just these seasons that we go through. So I really just wanted to share that with you today and give you some tips. And when we talk about stress, exercise is huge for our overall mental health and well-being. One thing that a colleague actually shared with me, she wanted me to start journaling and writing down 5 things every day that I was grateful for. And I really cannot say enough good about that. It's all about our mindset. And if we can take our minds for even just a few minutes a day off the hard things, off the sad things, off the things that are giving us grief of one sort or another, a boss, a project that's due, a child that's having a difficulty, anything that you could possibly name, if we can just sit down, if we can take a few deep breaths, because there's also a ton in the literature to support the benefit of focused, active, deep breathing. I've even told a school teacher patient of mine, I asked her how many bathroom breaks she got a day. She taught little children. And I told her, I said, when you go to the bathroom, I want you to just sit there and close your eyes and do 5 or 6 cycles of deep breathing. And, I think she was really diligent to try to do that, just to help her overall tolerance to just the demands of her job. But I think if we can begin to implement some of these strategies, that we deep breathe, that we try to just sit and be still. Often I have a homework sheet that I give patients almost every visit. And there's a section on there for stress management. And I might write 30 minutes of quiet time every day, or in 2 15-minute blocks. We might write in gratitude journal. There's a variety of things that I might recommend to a patient to help them. So I know it sounds woo-woo, but it's really not. It's very practical, and the detrimental effects over time of constant protracted stress that we're not dealing with. I'm not a stuffer. I've been told I'm an oversharer, actually. So I kind of think that works to my benefit, because I don't hold things in well. I don't do that well. So I'm fortunate and blessed to have people around me that care about me and that will be my sounding board and I can vent to. And I think there's a lot of benefit to that. Maybe it's not your spouse that needs to be that person for you. Maybe it needs to be someone else, but find that person. Find someone that you trust that can just listen. I love the phrase, someone who can hold space for you. And I also read something recently where a person asked a friend, hey, I need to vent right now. Do you have the mindset to allow me to do that? And I thought that was super cool to not only be thinking about what you need at the moment, but to be aware of your friend or the person that you're wanting to bring this to, and to say, hey, are you okay? Is this a good time for you that I can do this? So these things all add up. Collectively, they're powerful at speaking to our long-term health and well-being, our resiliency. I have a friend here in town, and I love his phrase when he talks about the benefits of exercise. He says, you want to look good naked and be harder to kill. And who would argue with that? Let's all look good naked and be harder to kill. And so we've talked about some strategies today that will help us accomplish that, to be more resilient, to not be susceptible to every little bug, problem floating by, and certainly not be susceptible to the horrific chronic disease that's wiping us out as a country, and everyone's sitting by and watching it happen as the drive-throughs are full, spilling out onto the interstate. Basically, the demand is so high for that. So I hope I've given you some things to think about today, and just kind of sharing some of my own life and strategies with you. And my goal for all of us is that youthful longevity, that the dying at 70 is really not my destiny. I think that's too young. I'm 58, I'm gonna blink my eyes and be 70 in 5 minutes. I mean, literally, it's gonna go by. And when that birthday happens, I hope to be on a mountain somewhere, and someplace fabulous, certainly, living life to my fullest. And that's what I want for each of you. So let's think about your nutrition. Let's focus on proper, healthy hydration. Let's make sure we've established some excellent sleep hygiene and that we're doing that for the whole family. Let's make sure we're moving our bodies. It doesn't have to be at a CrossFit level intensity. There is a variety of things, and you can mix and match to your heart's content to find what works for you and what works for your body. And then let's talk about stress. Let's talk about the things that bother us, and let's find strategies to help us navigate life in a healthier way so that the stresses won't make us sick. And then let's find a tribe, let's find a posse, let's find a group that we connect with, because I think there's great benefit in relationship. So thank you, and I look forward to visiting with you again soon.